So indigenous communities, especially in the Amazon basin, are impacted in many ways by illicit drug trafficking. One of the most obvious ways is that criminal groups are invading the territories, the protected national areas from indigenous communities, to use it for their illicit airplane strips. And this is how illegal deforestation happens, and they force them to collaborate. And if indigenous communities refuse, they are exposed to violence. There are also cases where minors from the indigenous communities have been forcibly recruited to work with these criminal groups. And the amount of money that is being offered to these indigenous communities to collaborate with them is enormous. So we have found out that, for instance, in the Amazon region, in the region of Ucayali, indigenous communities have been offered up to $120,000 a month. And at the same time, they're using small airplanes to bring the drugs out of these regions, and we're talking here about 350 kilos every 2 weeks. So it shows how big this business is, and at the same time, indigenous communities are not really left with many choices if they don't want to be a target to these criminal groups. So what is really important is that these indigenous communities, especially when addressing illicit drug trafficking activities in indigenous territories, it's important that these communities are also having a very active participation in the design phase of strategies. Very often, all the different actors and stakeholders who are involved, they decide for the indigenous communities what works best in their territories. And what we feel is important, apart from the inclusion and using the human rights approach, is to also see how indigenous communities can be empowered to also protect their own lands, as they are protecting it not only for their communities, but basically for global societies, especially when talking about the Amazon basin.